Coming up, it is a big weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This year's Brickyard Weekend has both IndyCar and NASCAR Cup Series drivers taking to the road course. IMS President Doug Boles will join us with details on the economic impact and the future of other races at the track. And ag tech startup Intelinair has developed artificial intelligence-driven software. How the company says it could help farmers increase yield and the bottom line. Plus, the sweet taste of success for Indiana candy maker Carrie Abbott. She's come a long way from a peanut butter dessert experiment, a disaster in her kitchen. More with Carrie on her booming business, Newfangled Confections. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway switching gears for this year's Brickyard Weekend. After more than 25 years on the famed 2.5-mile oval, NASCAR drivers are shifting to the IMS road course. This weekend is action-packed. IMS adding a new NTT IndyCar Series race as well. With more on what fueled the change and what it could mean, pleased to welcome to the show once again IMS President Doug Boles. Doug, welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's a big weekend. We're pretty excited to get racing again at the Speedway, and especially for this triple header.
Yeah, no kidding. A triple header, much different than 1994 and beyond with NASCAR and the Brickyard 400. That all changes. All of the races, the Cup cars on Sunday, the Verizon 200 on the road course, and then both Indy cars and the Xfinity Series on the road course, a doubleheader on Saturday. What really fueled those changes, Doug, and what do you see happening because of the change?
Well, I think the thing that really fueled it is really trying to add some life back into Brickyard Weekend. Obviously, we've been struggling over the last few years. The racing on the oval wasn't as good as maybe we had hoped it to be, especially since the Indy 500 racing has been so great lately. So last year, as part of COVID, we had an opportunity to run IndyCar with Xfinity on the road course on Saturday, and then we converted and ran the Cup cars on the oval. The Xfinity road race was so great that after talking to the folks at NASCAR, we said, let's try it with everybody this year, and bringing IndyCar back and NASCAR and IndyCar on the same weekend is going to be an awful lot of fun. But it was really driven by let's try and add some life back into the weekend and see where we go. It may not be a permanent thing, but certainly for this year, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you've got it's translated into some increased ticket sales. Talk about how ticket sales are going for this weekend compared to the recent history.
Yeah, so really the last weekend we can compare, or last year we can compare to is 2019 when we had fans. Last year we had this sort of a group together, but no fans were allowed. So our attendance is way up, especially when you consider Saturday having the IndyCar folks running in their Spike Coolers Grand Prix and then the Pennzoil 150 with Xfinity. There's a whole bunch of action that day. So the numbers on Saturday are significantly higher than they've ever been. And then there's a lot of interest in seeing the Cup cars on Sunday. So that number on Sunday is going to be either flat on where we've been in the past or slightly above. So overall weekend, I anticipate more than 125,000 people will come through the gates over the 3 days. So we're really pleased with that number, and I can't wait to see the racing. I think that'll be a lot of fun, too. Yeah,
providing a boost from an economic standpoint, too, to the Indianapolis region. Doug, is this an indication, in your view, there's been talk in the past as you look at the future of racing, of motorsports, more partnerships in multiple race weekends between, say, IndyCar and NASCAR, different series getting together to do things together instead of one-off racing, maybe a couple of different races to attract more fans and more attention on a weekend?
Yeah, I think it's really possible that you see other venues do this, but I think more importantly what's happening is NASCAR, IndyCar, and IMSA, which is the top sports car group here in North America, are communicating with each other and trying to find ways to help each other out. It used to be competitive between the three, and really right now everybody's trying to make motorsports in general much better for all of our fans. So we're working together. NBC, who broadcasts all of those three series, has really been a driver behind that, really trying to find ways to promote IndyCar races inside NASCAR, NASCAR races inside IndyCar. So I think in a lot of ways, racing as a community is working together to make racing racing as a whole much better for our fans.
Hey, want to get a quick reaction from you. The IndyCar Series in Nashville, I know that was a big race, a big market to get into. How did the race come off in your view in Nashville, and how does it look for the future?
It was great for a brand new race. Remember, that was a parking lot and a couple of streets that they had to turn into a brand new racetrack basically in just a few weeks. I think it was fantastic. The energy level was down there. IndyCar's got some tweaks to make the racing a little bit better. The promoter has some tweaks to make it better for the customers. But long term, it's going to be a fantastic venue for the NTT IndyCar Series. As
we wrap up, Doug, do want to ask you about Bob Jenkins. Of course, we lost Bob this week, a big loss to the motorsports industry, to Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the voice for so many years there. A tough loss.
Really tough loss. He was a fan first and foremost, and I think that's why everybody connected so well with him. Definitely will miss him, but there's a whole bunch of his life and his legacy that will live on forever, especially that call in 1992 when Allinger Jr. wins the Indianapolis 500 by just a few tenths of a second.
Yeah, well, I was there and can't hear enough of it again and again. Doug, thanks as always for taking time, especially on this very busy weekend. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Now to a different set of wheels, the ones that make 9 million trips each year in Indianapolis. We're talking about Indiana's largest public transportation system, Indigo, and its leader is my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. Inez Evans was born at the Fort Lee Army Base in Virginia. She arrived in Indiana to serve as president and CEO of Indigo about 2 years ago, before stops in Ohio, Georgia, and California. She explains why public transportation is so important for Indianapolis.
We're able to make that connection for people in the community so they can still have viable jobs, get to education, get to doctor's appointments. That's where we come in.
Much more with Indigo President and CEO Inez Evans. She is a singer and a bowler. Wait till you hear some details on that. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Well, next, how some new technology could help Hoosier farmers turn higher yields and bigger profits. More on Intellinair's crop intelligence software and why the company is moving its headquarters to Indianapolis. It's time to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Well, agtech startup Intellinair says it is helping farmers increase return on investment and yields year-round. Intellinair's platform uses machine learning, computer vision, high-res imaging to deliver an uninterrupted view of every acre of farmland from planting to harvest. With more on the AI technology and why the company is relocating its headquarters to Indianapolis, pleased to be joined again and welcome to the show Intellinair board member Tim Hassinger. And Tim, great to see you again. If this is a familiar face to you, Tim was a CEO at the old Dow AgroSciences. Great to have you back in Indianapolis again, Tim.
Great. Thanks, Gary, and good to be back.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this. You're a board member at Intellinair. Precision agriculture, I think, is a great description. Data analytics. Talk about the technology and really what it does.
It's exciting technology, Gary. What it does is it takes imagery data from different sources, such as satellite, fixed-wing airplane, or drone. And the resolution is all the way to 10 centimeter, or in essence, every 4 inches across the field. Intellinair does the analytic work on it. It evaluates that data against 52 different patterns, which would, a pattern would indicate if it's identified that there's an agronomic issue, and then an alert is sent to the farmer indicating what agronomic issue exists and where in the field. So this is a data analytics company that's focused in agriculture.
This is amazing, the degree of detail that's available to farmers now. And this is about utilizing artificial intelligence, right? Machine learning, those types of really high-tech elements.
Yes, that's exactly what this is. As I said earlier, it's a data analytics company, and that's where its focus is. And then it gets its imagery data really depending on the situation, whether satellite is the best choice or fixed-wing airplane is the best choice. You can evaluate that, and then the company does the analytic work on that data that it gets from those sources.
All right, I know you've got big plans, big growth plans at the company. You're focused initially here in the Midwest, Indiana and Illinois, corn and soybeans, but there's tremendous room for growth. And importantly for Indiana, moving the company's headquarters, you're going to put it right here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, we're in the process of establishing the headquarters in Indianapolis. As you mentioned, we have growth ambition here, but right now our focus is close to home. Majority of our business is in Illinois, Indiana on corn and soybeans. We elected to put the headquarters here. It's, first of all, close to our customers. As we all know, Indianapolis is really becoming a technology hub, and we believe that the talent that we need is available here.
Yeah, big win certainly for the state of Indiana. Tim, as you look at the potential, what's the market potential you see for a company like Intellinair?
Well, this is a growing field, and so growth exists. Not only the fact, as you mentioned earlier, this can go into broader geography, on more crops, can go outside of the United States. But right now, where the biggest growth opportunity is just more adoption of it. Roughly 25% of farmers use some type of imagery source. So there's really growth that can come from both directions here.
Tim Hassinger, great to have you on the show again. I should mention you got a big honor, received a big honor last month. The National Agri-Marketing Association Agribusiness Leader of the Year, richly deserved. You've had a great career that continues in full force. Congratulations, Tim, and look forward to following up with more on the company.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot for having me on the show.
All right. Well, it is a challenge for many small Indiana communities how to preserve and revitalize downtown buildings. Our Mary Rachel Redmond has details on how the state and Indiana landmarks have a plan to help. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Well, the decline of Main Street America is certainly affecting smaller towns and cities everywhere. Unfortunately, Indiana is no different. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond is here with more. Mary Rachel.
Thanks, Gary. Well, in an effort to turn that trend around, the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs has launched a pilot program that will award 3 Hoosier communities a $2 million grant. 25 Indiana towns applied, and now the competition has been narrowed down to 5 finalists that include the towns of Brookville and Cambridge City and the cities of Attica and Kendallville in Jasper. In conversations with community officials in Fountain County this week, they tell me this may be their final shot to save their historic downtown. Last fall, I visited the pre-Civil War downtown district of Attica as part of our Endangered Indiana series. Here's a look back at that story from November of 2020.
In the 1800s, when they planned Attica, someone had the foresight to go ahead and build our downtown along the Wabash River. We're all tied in together. We all have this unique fiber. We have this character. We have that small town look that people love so much.
And residents and business owners want to try to save that.
Attica as a community is so fortunate to have so much historic fabric. The historic downtown, such a unique heart to the community. Placing it on our 10 most, we hope that it would start to draw attention to it, make people aware of it.
But it won't be easy. Population shifts to bigger cities and the advent of the automobile slowly chipped away at Attica's historic downtown Perry Street. Now the clock is ticking to save the beloved 175-year-old Indiana town.
So it has a tremendous history for Indiana, tremendous history on the Wabash, and it's part of our heritage. It's part of what makes us special. It's part of what makes it powerful for future generations. So if we lose that, then we just become another city.
I haven't seen the attention that we need yet, because financially we need so much to get done on the facades, and we have buildings that are coming down, especially the old hotel. There's a lot of people that do want to get it taken care of, but then there's neighbors that are upset because there's bricks falling off of it.
If these bricks could talk, oh, the stories they'd tell. Behind me is the historic downtown Attica Hotel that was built in 1853, and as you can see, it's clearly in need of major repairs. But will they get done before it's too late?
Well, the hotel goes way back when Betty Davis and Al Capone supposedly ate there. There was all kinds of history. Bing Crosby ate there. It's just had such a history through the years that, it's something we really would like to save if we could save it.
My fear is if we don't get some investment in the landmarks and the older buildings, they'll be gone fairly soon.
And during these uncertain times, Kleckner believes restoring the heart of downtown Attica will help save a community looking to evoke its once vibrant self.
These buildings have survived crises in the past. We've survived those. The community has survived. So I think the downtown sort of evokes that sense of continuity.
The city of Attica is not down and out. We've got several successful factories. We have a tremendous tourism industry. We have something to build on.
The 3 winners will be announced in the coming weeks. We'll look forward to seeing who those are. Gary?
And good luck to Attica. Great. Thanks, Mary Rachel. Well, also making headlines around Indiana this week, a new waterfront park in southern Indiana could bring millions of dollars in consumer spending to the state. That according to a new study. The Courier-Journal reporting that Scott Martin, the executive director of Jeffersonville-based nonprofit River Heritage Conservancy, is looking to create Origin Park with an expected price tag of $200 million. Now, the project would potentially transform 600 acres of dump sites, junkyards, and abandoned rail lines across Jeffersonville, Clarksville, and New Albany. Findings from a 6-month study conducted by HR&A advisors show the potential boost in tourism and talent attraction and retention efforts could increase consumer spending from $8 million to $23 million annually. Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott says the city will boycott Pepsi and Pepsi-related products if the company does not come to a resolution with union workers at a nearby bottling plant in Munster. Union drivers have been on strike since mid-July over health care benefits. McDermott says the city will terminate all of its Pepsi contracts if a resolution isn't reached by August 20. And Elkhart County planning infrastructure improvements to attract a $200 million logistics facility that could bring 1,000 jobs. The South Bend Tribune reporting the Elkhart County Redevelopment Commission has tentatively approved a $10 million tax package to make improvements leading to a 100-acre parcel near the Indiana Toll Road. The publication says the unnamed company would have a, quote, high degree of automation and would need nearly 1 million square feet of space. Up next, the sweet taste of success for Indiana candy maker Carrie Abbott. She's come a long way from an early experiment in her kitchen. Well, some sweet things are happening for Indianapolis-based Newfangled Confections. Since its launch in 2012, the handcrafted candy company that was really created after a culinary mishap in a kitchen has had quite the journey from small batch to big box. I'm pleased to welcome back to the show Carrie Abbott to learn more about how she's diversifying and scaling her product offerings. And Carrie, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. For those who don't know, I think it's a great story and really an entrepreneurial success story. But again, you founded in 2012. There was an accident in your kitchen that led to the creation of Friddle, which is your kind of your flagship product, if you will. Talk about that accident and how things came about.
I've always had a love and passion for food, hospitality. I was running a catering business at the time, and we did a wedding where I was trying to stay vague on one of the treats. It was just called peanut butter and chocolate. And really from there, I had all these leftover pieces, started giving them away, and thought, wait, there's really something there in packaging this candy and the sort of the immediate joy it brought people. I loved it. So I stopped packing the cars and the vans and the trucks for catering, and then focus on this one single item that we could make, package, and hopefully grow to scale.
Yeah, and you indeed are doing that. Talk about the growth of that one product, Friddle. You're in a number of national and local retailers, Target, Fresh Time, Market District, Airport. You're in boutique locations. You've really grown that Friddle product over the years.
I really have, and it was just a dream come true. There are little intricacies in business that the larger that it does scale, there's just so many things to learn along the way. We were able to actually grow to the success of Barnes & Noble and even QVC. That's kind of our biggest sort of win, if you will, in terms of size. So, check that box, we got there. But really, it's the central Indiana and local Indianapolis fans that just keep it going.
Yeah, and you had a business plan. You had a vision to really try to market one product, do that well, and then grow the business. And you did that a little over about a year and a half ago. You made a big acquisition, the best chocolate in town here in Indianapolis. You acquired the company to diversify your offerings.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, you probably know her well, the founder, Elizabeth Garber, of the best chocolate in town. She was ready to start a new chapter in her life and came to us. And since then, we've just had so much fun looking at and really developing and scaling and improving processes of a very successful line that's been around for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, talk about growth plans. You're in growth mode, obviously. What's your vision? I know you're coming to us from your downtown headquarters, really packaging, manufacturing, distribution, all those types of things. You're already up to 20 employees. What's your vision for growth?
Vision for growth is probably just, I really want the city to stay open safely. And when that happens, I want to continue to listen to the customers. What is it that they like? What sizes do they like? What flavors do they like? It's not just about current trends. I mean, there's some truffles and some items here that have been made for so many years that continue to be the very best. So you have to listen to your customers. Part of our growth plan is just continue on bestsellers that have been around forever, but then also following some trends and sizes. I'm finding right now a lot of people enjoy the more treat size and the small and things that they deserve, as well as the gift.
All right, Carrie Abbott, Newfangled Confections, coming to us from your downtown headquarters location. A growth story indeed. Carrie, thanks for joining us. We look forward to following your story.
Thank you so much.
All right. Coming up ahead on our next half hour, getting back on your feet after an ankle injury. It can be tough. We'll show you how South Bend-based Takeo Brace has developed a device that's helping patients, even NFL and collegiate athletes, get back on their feet more quickly. Well, South Bend-based Takeo Brace says 17 NFL teams and more than 65 NCAA teams are already using its unique ankle brace. And the startup is taking another major step forward, recently announcing a $1.2 million round of seed funding. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. Takeo Brace says its ankle brace isn't just for athletes, but for anyone who wants an alternative to the traditional walking boot after an injury. About 14,000 patients are already using the brace, and that number is growing. Takeo Brace co-founder and chief executive officer Gavin Furlick says revenue this year has jumped 50% compared to 2020, and he joins me now to tell us more. Hi, Gavin. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, Takeo Brace has such a great backstory, and it involves an Indiana treasure, Notre Dame football. So tell us how Takeo Brace got its start.
Absolutely. So Mike Bean, one of our co-founders and an athletic trainer for the University of Notre Dame football team, had a tough time with the existing solutions, namely internal ankle braces, when trying to serve the Notre Dame football team. They didn't provide the stability that he really needed, but also they were difficult to fit inside the shoe. and not the most efficient brace to put on for in-game injuries. So he had an idea, why not brace the outside of the shoe, which would actually be more stable because you stop the shoe from turning and really provide stabilization for the ankle and hindfoot. So he really invented something phenomenal. Just a brace that fits outside the shoe.
And we mentioned that this is an alternative to a walking boot, which we all see everywhere, so common. So explain how your brace is different than the standard walking boot.
It's a great question. So, first and foremost, we provide, similar stability to a walking boot, right? A walking boot does a decent job providing stability. However, a walking boot is going to create a limb length discrepancy, which often causes pain in the knee, the back, or the hip. And a walking boot is heavy, it's cumbersome, and it's just difficult to live your normal life. So if you're passionate about hiking or passionate about working with animals or passionate about going to the grocery store, right? Going shopping. It's really difficult to live your life and do what you want to do in a walking boot because it is very limiting. So Taco allows you to wear your own shoe, which doesn't create any sort of limb length discrepancy. And you can comfortably do the things that you love in your own shoe without the adverse side effects of the walking boot.
So your company recently raised $1.2 million in seed round financing. Some of those investors included Elevate Ventures, Irish Angels, Pit Road Fund, all of those here in Indiana. Talk about the importance of that funding, especially as your company is in growth mode and looking to update the brace.
Certainly. Funding very important, right? We're growing, which means increased demand on, our team's time. But we've been able to expand our team already with that funding. We're investing more heavily in marketing. And it'll just be really exciting to make an impact on more and more patients. I think over 13,000 patients have worn Taco successfully, but that's what really gives us joy and what really drives us as a team is just helping each individual patient to be able to live their lives while they're recovering from ankle injury. So ultimately, that's what the funding is going to allow us to do is to reach more and more patients and to impact more and more lives.
And you mentioned more patients, and of course this was inspired by athletes, but we've talked about how it's not just for athletes. Talk just a little bit about the spectrum of patients that you're seeing using your brace.
Absolutely. So this goes from anywhere from supporting 350-pound linemen to supporting, patients who just want to get around and live their everyday life. One of our favorite stories is a 92-year-old patient that ruptured his Achilles tendon, and doctor put him in a walking boot because that's the typical standard of care now. It took that patient over 90 minutes just to put the brace on. Just to put the walking boot on. Let alone had a real difficult time just getting around his house, right? Getting to his kitchen, doing the things you would normally do. So with Taco, the very first day he put it on, he was able to go out to dinner with his friends. So that's just a great example of, how a walking boot can limit someone, a patient in trying to live their normal life. But Taco can essentially give someone their life back, right? And allow them to do the things they love while recovering from injury.
And just a few seconds left, but talk a little bit about the traction you have in the market. College and professional teams are using your brace already.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, 17 NFL teams, over 65 NCAA teams. But more importantly is just the everyday patients, right? And so over 13,000 patients so far have been impacted by Taco, and we've got a long way to go, right? We're going to make Taco the standard of care for ankle and hindfoot injuries, and we want to impact a lot more patients in the process.
All right, Gavin, well, congratulations on the recent funding, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate it.
And Gary, back to you.
Interesting innovation indeed. Thanks very much, Kylie. Well, for nearly 25 years, the Indianapolis-based GEO Foundation has served as somewhat of a lifeline for impoverished students to succeed in college. GEO, it stands for Greater Education Opportunities, was founded in 1998. Since then, the nonprofit has grown to support a network of 7 academies in Gary, Indianapolis, also Baton Rouge, Louisiana, serving some 3,500 predominantly African-American and low-income students. GEO recently received more than $8 million in grant money from the state, launched a first-of-its-kind online academy, and doubled enrollment at its Next Generation High School in Indianapolis. And with more on the GEO Foundation's mission and momentum, pleased to be joined by founder and superintendent Kevin Teasley. Kevin, as always, welcome to the program.
Gary, thanks for having me.
I ticked off some recent growth and really some interesting developments. Give us the model, if you will. Again, 23 years in the making. What is GEO all about?
Sure. Well, the mission is to break the back of poverty, and we do that through quality education, and we tend to be non-traditional. And when I say non-traditional, our high schools are where we really see the non-traditional model take flight, let's say, in the sense that if you go to any of our high schools, our students have all the same opportunities that you see at many of the what I would call destination high schools: Carmel, Zionsville, Avon, Plainfield. All of these are really great high schools, and they're pretty much destination. You can go there and get anything and everything you want. At our schools, we look at our schools as a launching pad. In other words, we want you to come to our school, but because the student population we serve really doesn't have the college experience in their home and the college going attitude, et cetera, we need to convince them that they are indeed college capable. Mm-hmm. And we don't do that by doing traditional things, by keeping them on our campus to learn math, science, et cetera. We take them to Ivy Tech, or IUPUI, or IU Northwest, or Purdue Northwest, so that they take real college classes while they are in high school and on the college campus. And so that they're getting a real experience from a college professor, sitting next to students that don't look like them, aren't the same age as them. And so they become more college acclimated and ready to go to college.
Yeah, and the proof is in the pudding, you could say. Next Generation High School, the Meadows neighborhood near Northeast Side, challenging neighborhood. That high school has seen enrollment double.
Yes, it's not only doubled in enrollment, it's doubled in enrollment in students going to college. Every year we test our students at the beginning of the school year to make sure that they're college capable. And if they are college capable, that's a unique thing that we do. Even ninth graders take this test. If they're college capable, we enroll them in college level courses. So in our first year at Next Gen Indy, we had 30 to 40% of our students taking real college courses. They earned 12 to 15 college credits their first year. We're talking about freshmen in high school. And the goal is for them to earn a full associate degree before they graduate from high school.
Yep. I want to get to this. I mentioned the $8.5 million grant to really enhance those college and career readiness programs. Also, a first of its kind online on-campus K-12 school. Now, this is new. What is this all about?
GEO Focus Academy. Of course, we saw the pandemic last year. Everybody went virtual, right? So what we're trying to do, again, is be a little non-traditional. K-12 virtual schools have existed for over 20 years. What we don't see is the opportunity for someone taking a virtual school and when they get into high school, being able to take an on-campus college course. And so we're blending what we do in our charter school with a virtual school. And this is going to be statewide. Any student in the state of Indiana that wants to enroll can, and when they get to the high school age, they'll have the opportunity to go to any of 60 universities and colleges in the state of Indiana for free, part of the tuition that we charge.
Some amazing momentum at GEO Academies, the GEO Foundation, the organization's president, Kevin Teasley. Kevin, congratulations on these developments. I know there'll be a lot more ahead, and we'll look forward to following the story.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, this week, the Purdue Aerospace District on the west edge of the West Lafayette campus was flying high with the announcement of a major new facility. The dean of the College of Engineering at Purdue says the Hypersonic Ground Test Center will create jobs and knowledge together in the area of hypersonics. The facility, operated by an independent nonprofit consortium of industry members and hosted by Purdue. Mung Chang says combining the facility with Purdue's own $41 million hypersonic applied research facility and Rolls-Royce's recently announced test center will make the university the epicenter of hypersonics research. Rolls-Royce is a founding member of the consortium along with 7 other companies. Well, it won't be long before the players slip on the pads, strap on the helmets, and fans hit the stands. We're just a few weeks away from kickoff to football season. Details on how Indianapolis-based USA Football is taking the lead in keeping the game safe for players. Well, with football season almost upon us, Indianapolis-based USA Football has launched multifaceted programs aimed at bringing the best in safety and coaching to all levels of the game, but especially to our youth. Bill Benner has more inside Indiana sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. From how youth leagues are organized and conducted to limited contact play to coach certification, USA Football is trying to ensure the continued growth of football while doing everything it can to ensure the safety of the kids who play the game. And joining us today to discuss these various initiatives is Scott Hollenbach, the Chief Executive Officer of USA Football. Scott, welcome. Good to have you back on the program.
Great to be with you as always.
Again, multifaceted initiatives. USA Football, they had a great program called Heads Up Football. Had to do a lot with tackling techniques and making sure the kids, again, were playing with heads up. But from that, you've spun off, again, this various initiatives, starting with League Excellence, Coach Certification. Just give us a general overview of these programs that USA Football is engaging in.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, building on the foundation of the Heads Up Football program, we work closely with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and created something we call the football development model, which simply put is addressing the contacts in a new way. And that is start with non-contact, progress to limited contact, and then to full contact tackle. So think of flag to something we call tackle bar, which is you don't knock to the ground, you sort of learn the game in a different way, onto rookie tackle and full 11 aside. Full field tackle. We also base it on an age-appropriate, skill-based learning. The best analogy I would have for you, if you think of soccer, this is why they have like 8 different field sizes and goal sizes. They progress the kids based on their ages. It's a whole new reimagined way to look at football, and it's being incredibly well received by parents. It simply gives parents more entry points and options, and it meets kids where they are. So not every 8-year-old's the same, right? Not every 10-year-old's the same. So it's a whole new way to look at the game in terms of how we teach it, how we develop the athletes, and how we coach them.
Talk about the League Excellence Program. And again, you're engaging with leagues of, again, various levels, various ages throughout the country.
Exactly, and thank you. In sort of concert with that football development model, one of the things we learned from the Heads of Football program is we need to find new ways to celebrate and recognize leagues that are doing things the right way. So think of the League Excellence program as really a good housekeeping seal approach. So we have a bronze, silver, and gold program. When you reach any of those levels, USA Football celebrates, recognizes you. We work with partners like our friends at the Colts and the Big Ten and other partners around the country to help recognize and celebrate these leagues for doing things the right way. The simple premise is sort of to set new standards and best practices and then raise all boats over time.
Scott, coach certification, very, very important that, again, as you train these kids and give them techniques, it comes from the coaches, and coach certification is a very important part of this program.
Absolutely right. It doesn't really get any more important than teaching the coaches. So the foundation and backbone of our organization, well over 100,000 coaches a year get trained. And it's all now about football development models. So it's not just the things you mentioned earlier, technical, tactical, those sorts of things. We're talking about mental health now. We're talking about anti-abuse. We're talking about a myriad of other things, nutrition, trying to be holistic when we approach this with coaches and how they manage, today's world, which is very different than it was obviously a couple of years ago and certainly 5 or 10 years ago. So always going to be a critical component of ours in terms of coaching or educating coaches and them working with the kids.
And Scott, quickly as we wrap up, I know Pete Ward of the Colts, longtime leader of the Colts organization, Kevin Warren, commissioner of the Big Ten. You guys had a presence at the Big Ten Media Day recently in Indianapolis, and so a lot of support from those various folks.
Yeah. Love to have Pete Ward and Kevin Warren as new board members. And then, the Big Ten's been a longstanding great partner among other college conferences. They're all working with us closely to, again, make this game better and safer.
Well, Scott Hollenbach, the Chief Executive Officer of USA Football, we appreciate you being on the program. And again, we got to bring these kids up and make them play the game the right way. Thanks for being on the program.
Yeah, great. Always good to be with you guys. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Scott. And Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, the woman driving the bus at Indigo has experienced an unorthodox route in becoming a top public transportation executive. Indigo President and CEO Inez Evans is my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. She was raised in a military family, born at Fort Lee Army Base in Prince George, Virginia. Her first job in mass transit, customer relations back in the 90s with no college degree. She worked her way up, got her bachelor's degree, and ultimately earned an MBA. If she hadn't gotten into public transportation, Inez was thinking about a career in music. And can she ever sing?
This is Italian opera. So, is that enough?
Very interesting conversation with the multi-talented Indigo President and CEO Inez Evans. That's on our 28th episode of the Business and Beyond podcast. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Well, a record year already for tech investment in Indiana. We get perspective on what's fueling that growth and what could be next from a special Insiders panel. Well, a big milestone for Indiana's tech community. The state's tech sector has already broken capital investment records in 2021, and there's still 5 months to go in the year. What's fueling the growth, and what will it take to keep that momentum going? For some insight, we've assembled a special Insiders panel comprised of TechPoint CEO Mike Langelier, also JMI Equity General Partner Larry Contrella, and Elevate Ventures co-founder and CIO Ting Goody. And welcome one and all to this special edition of the Insiders.
Hi, Gary.
Mike, I'm going to start with you. These are some really impressive numbers. You know, there's been a lot of attention on VC and how do you get more of it into the state. Give us your read, if you will, on these numbers. There's some big deals that are part of this as well, and what's really driving it?
Gary, we've, as you know, TechPoint's been long tracking and reporting the tech venture capital investment in Indiana as tech investments, as investments in the tech companies. They typically represent almost 3/4 of the state's VC deals every year. But our analysis this year surfaced some significant things, which I believe you've distilled into an infographic for viewers. And there were really 3 storylines that I would point to. One of them is size, the second one is quantity, and then the third is the investors that are involved. On the size front, 2019 was the previous high water mark for Indiana's tech VC investment, with $358 million for the year. We're only halfway through 2021, and we've already seen $400 million invested, blowing out that previous record. We also broke records for largest deal sizes, with actually not just 1, but 3 deals, beating ExactTarget's $70 million single investment record from 2009. Greenlight Guru at $120 million, Onboard at $100 million, and Terminus at $90 million. And just to clarify, ExactTarget in 2009, they raised $140 million, but it was in 2 separate deals, $70 million and $70 million, that were 6 months apart.
Yeah.
So that's to the size. On the quantity front, 2020 actually, surprisingly, was the record year for that. There were lots of small investments, 73 deals total, a record number, and almost actually double the average historical annual run rate. But in the first half of 2021, there were 41 total tech investments, as much as a typical annual total, and on track to beat last year's record as well. And as it relates to the investors, you actually have the perfect panelists here in JMI and Elevate Ventures to speak to both that size and quantity stories, because JMI was the investor in both of the 2 largest deals, Greenlight Guru and Onboard, and Elevate Ventures is a backer of many of the early stage investments, making them not only the most active VC in Indiana, but even the Great Lakes region, right, Ting?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Ting, talk about that, because Elevate has been very active. Authentics, Casted, Clear Object, Codalicious. There are a number of firms you've invested in, and you really are putting a focus on making this a statewide kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary, from our perspective, the number of deals is important, not just from the indie community, but the all around different regions across the state, because it is a key indicator of venture activity density.
Yeah.
Startups, high risk, high reward, both financially and economically. Because of such high risk level, we really need a large number of startups and venture activities in order to see the type of sustained growth in company development as well as in venture capital investment.
Yeah. Larry, JMI is JMI Equity headquarters in Baltimore and San Diego. As Mike indicated, you've been very active. Greenlight Guru, Onboard, Bloomerang. What is it about? You've got $6 billion under management there. What is it about Indiana? Do you sense there's a building momentum here when it comes to tech and innovation, entrepreneurship?
There certainly is. I mean, there's a lot to like about the Indiana tech scene right now. You know, as you mentioned, we've invested in 3 companies in the last 12 months, Bloomerang, Onboard, and Greenlight Guru. And we've invested in a few more, you know, over the history of the firm. You know, we invest across North America, and we find the best geos to invest are those where there's a healthy balance between high quality talent available, you know, for these businesses as they grow, because they need to hire more people, and the competitive environment for this talent. And I think Indiana really offers a healthy balance here. There's a great pool of talented individuals that our businesses can hire from as they grow. And at the same time, while there's competition for the talent, it's not as extreme as, you know, some other areas of the country like New York or the Bay Area, where you're competing against Google, Amazon, and Facebook every day to hire the next developer. So there's a lot to like. And from our experience, the companies that we've partnered with in Indiana, they're building companies for the long haul. So, you know, building great products to serve their customers. They want to build large, sustainable businesses. And that's what we're looking for at JMI.
Yeah, Mike, I'm sure that's music to your ears to hear that from someone from outside of Indiana. But as you look at, you know, how do you keep this going? Because Indiana's not where ultimately we want to be, I assume, as a state. There's more to go, more to grow, if you will. What are the keys, in your view, to really growing this thing?
Yeah, I'd point to 4 things, Gary. More Indiana-based investment firms, startup studios, and accelerators would be one. We've seen High Alpha, Heritage Group, Techstars, and others that are demonstrating the potential for startup formation and funding. Let's do more of that. The second one, let's promote VCI. Indiana's governor and legislature recently expanded the venture capital investment tax credit in the last couple sessions, and making it even more attractive and even accessible to investors outside of Indiana. But that needs to be marketed better than what it is today. And then I would also say expand out-of-state investor connections even more. Since 2015, TechPoint has brought 86 VC firms from 24 different states to Indiana to meet with 150 Indiana companies. Ting, I know that your team does a lot of this relationship building as well. We need to keep it going to bring folks like Larry, you know, in and get them more engaged. And then the last thing, we need to, and this probably most importantly, dramatically boost Indiana's entrepreneurship and startup rate. Quoting a recent Brookings report, Indiana has more employer firms that are 16 years old or older than it has firms younger than 5 years old, and that's a trend that runs opposite the country as a whole. So we need to really boost that kind of early stage entrepreneurship rate as well.
I only have a minute left. Ting, I'll give you 30, Larry 30. But Ting, as you look to the remainder of the year, we've got the aspect of COVID out there still. How do you see VC activity through the remainder of this year into 2022?
That's an excellent question, Gary. As Mike pointed out, first half of the 2021 in tech sector alone is already breaking record, and we're ready to put out our venture report here, hopefully, statewide for all our sectors in the next couple of weeks. Going to tell a very similar story. I think the rest of the year is going to be a record-breaking year all the way around a number of key areas.
All right, very good. Larry, final word to you.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing. 2021's been, you know, the busiest year to date, and we see no signs of it slowing down. I think it's a combination of, you know, where valuations are at and just the health of the overall ecosystem. So.
Very good. Larry Contrell, general partner at JMI Equity. Ting Goody, co-founder and CIO at Elevate Ventures, and TechPoint CEO Michael Angela. Thank you all. Very positive outlook. We'll hopefully have an update on this in a few months with some more information. Thanks. And I'll be right back after this. Coming up next week, Fort Wayne startup Pond looking to make a splash in the nonprofit sector nationwide. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.